They had guns, they had prisons, they had an empire that stretched across the world. I had only one thing, truth. But truth, when held with courage, is enough to move mountains. When I was young, I feared conflict. I thought silence would keep me safe. But as I watched injustice rise around me, I understood something eternal. Silence may protect you from pain, but truth protects your soul. A man who hides from truth lives in a prison of his own making. But a man who stands with truth, he cannot be caged. I learned to wield truth as my weapon, not a sword, not a shield, but a force that could pierce deeper than any blade, because truth does not need permission. Truth simply is. Empires can outlaw speeches, they can silence voices, but they cannot outlaw truth. They cannot silence what lives in the human heart. They called my path weakness. They mocked it. They told me an empire cannot be shaken with words, only with war. But I never believed in war made of bullets. I believed in war made of conscience, because violence ends when the stronger grows tired. But truth never tires. They struck us down, and we stood back up. They jailed us, and our movement grew louder. They took our voices, but our silence became deafening. What they didn't understand was this. You can fight a man who hates you, but how do you fight a man who simply stands in truth? I did not create armies. I awakened something far more powerful, the conscience of a nation. And when a nation stands on truth, no empire can hold it. People think courage is loud. They imagine it with flags, shouts, and drums. But courage often speaks in whispers. It walks barefoot. It bleeds quietly. It stands where others kneel. And above all, it never lies. I have seen men who thought themselves strong, but the first blow of truth shattered them, because lies build palaces on sand, and truth is the rising tide. I didn't need to be stronger than the empire. I only needed to be more faithful to the truth than they were to their power. Power fades, truth does not. They feared me, not because of who I was, but because I could not be bought. You cannot threaten a man who refuses to betray his own soul. You cannot enslave a man who bows only to truth. Many ask me, Gandhi, why truth? Why not meet force with force? Because truth does not corrupt, violence does. Truth builds, violence destroys. And I did not want a free India born from hatred. I wanted a free India born from light. Truth has no army, yet it conquers empires. Truth has no weapon, yet it breaks chains. Truth has no face, yet it is reflected in every honest soul who dares to stand. When they called me to court, I did not hide. I walked in with my head high, because a man who stands in truth never bows. They could punish my body, but they could not touch what I carried within. Every sentence they gave me only echoed my cause louder. Every jail cell became a temple of resistance, because when truth is your weapon, even your chains become banners. I called my movement Satyagraha, the force of truth, not soft, not weak, but unbreakable. Satyagraha means this: even if you stand alone, you stand with the strength of the universe behind you. A lie can conquer for a season, but truth is patient. Truth outlives every thought. It waits while empires rise, and it watches as they fall. And when the dust clears, it still stands. I have always believed, even if I am a minority of one, the truth is still the truth. The world does not decide what is right. The world only decides what is loud. But loud is not the same as right. And history remembers what is right. I did not need to shout to be heard. I only needed to stand in silence long enough for the world to realize that truth does not need a microphone. It has its own voice. They tried to humiliate me, but humiliation does not work on a man who lives by truth, because the ego can be bruised, but truth cannot. They called me stubborn, and they were right. I was stubborn for what mattered, stubborn for what endures, stubborn for what cannot be negotiated. I told my people, we do not need to match their cruelty. We must surpass it with dignity, because when you stand in truth, you rise above the storm. They may have rifles, but we have righteousness. They may have armies, but we have conscience. And a clean conscience is a shield no bullet can pierce. There is something terrifying to an oppressor about truth, because truth demands they look in the mirror, and not every man can survive what he sees there. I watched as policemen raised their batons against us, and we did not move, not out of fear, but out of strength. They struck our bodies, but each strike only proved our point. Our pain became their mirror, and slowly the world began to watch. Slowly their power began to crack, not because of how loud we were, but because of how unshakable we stood. Truth is not just a word. Truth is a force. When you align with it, you do not need to win. Truth wins for you. I do not wear armor. I wear conviction. I do not carry a sword. I carry conscience. And I have learned these are sharper than any blade. When the history of this world is written, it will not speak loudly of the guns. It will whisper of the souls who refuse to kneel, because it is always the whisper that outlasts the roar. To the warrior listening now, know this: the most powerful weapon you will ever hold is not in your hand, it is in your heart. It is the courage to live in truth, even when the world shakes around you. Do not be afraid to stand alone. Truth stands with you, and that is an army no empire can defeat. I am not a legend. I am not a saint. I am only a man who refused to trade truth for comfort, and that was enough to shake an empire. Empires crumble, weapons rust, names are forgotten, but truth never dies. I am Gandhi. I did not conquer with force. I conquered with truth. I am Gandhi. I am the voice of truth. And truth is louder than any empire.